Y'all, this trial is all over the place and we have really got to get into it. Before we get into it though, I do want to let you guys know that this video is for educational and entertainment purposes only. Please remember to be kind to everybody everywhere in your everyday life, in your home, in the grocery store, and especially in the comment section down below. Please do not show hate to anybody, anywhere. Good morning, my lovelies, my beauties, my friends. My name is Christina and welcome to my channel. If you're new here, thank you so much for clicking on this video. I really hope that you will subscribe, stick around, take a chance and hearing some things that I have to say. And if you are a returning subscriber, y'all already know, y'all are my babies. So good morning, good morning, good morning. How is everybody doing today? I hope you all are having an amazing day. I hope you all have had a wonderful week. I hope everybody is doing good, feeling good, and watching the Murdaugh trial, because when I tell y'all, it started off a bit slow, which trials typically do, I guess. Typically they start off slow, and there was nothing different with the Murdaugh trial. It kind of started off slow, but now we're getting into it. So in today's video, I'm going to hit the high notes on the things that I found very interesting. I'm going to show you guys some clips from what I'm going to consider week 1 through 2 of the trial. The trial's only supposed to last 3 weeks, which as of me filming this would be the last week, but it looks like it's going to go over. So my intentions would be to film this video for you guys with week 1 and 2, the high notes, get you guys caught up, tell you guys what I'm thinking. Do I think he's innocent? Do I think he's guilty? Do I think he's going to win? Okay. Or do I think he's going to get found guilty? I'm going to tell you guys that so far. And then in the next video, we'll wrap it up with the trial, what's going on, I guess, more of the last week. And then we'll see what exactly happens. What I will tell y'all before I give you a little recap is this family had a lot of power for a long time. And I've really thought about it, like, is that a thing that should happen? You know, if you have a family that is a prominent family and they're doing good and they work hard, and it just so happens that, like, you know, you've got this husband and wife and their child goes on to be successful and do good things, and then their children do, and it goes on. Yeah, I mean, that should be allowed. However, with this family, there was a huge imbalance of power, and it just snowballed over the years. And every time I look at this family and all that they had, I mean, they had a hunting camp that was 1,700 acres, over almost 2,000 acres. That alone is a generational wealth that they could have passed down and used to do good things and did wonderful things in their community. And it seems like they just were so big for their britches and thought they could get away with anything that they wanted to get away with, and did for a while. And now it's all coming to a head, which is so wild, but also fascinating to watch at the same time. So let me give you guys a quick recap. I'm in full expectation that you guys know the whole story, but if you guys don't know the whole story and you're not caught up, please go watch the other video that I did that's here in my playlist that'll tell you the story. But a quick recap is Alec Murdaugh is on trial for murder against his wife and his son. So he was married to his wife. He had 2 children, 2 boys, Buster and Paul, and he is being accused of ending his own wife and his own son in order to cover up some money dealings, some money laundering he was doing, some theft, some trouble he was about to get into. His son was in trouble, and they're alleging, the prosecution, that he killed his wife and his son in order to take the distraction off of the other issues that he had, which, if that's what he did, and I'm gonna tell y'all what I think, can you imagine your husband, who you've been with for 20-something years, built an empire with, takes you out and your child out in order to cover up the fact that he was stealing money when he was already rich? Rich people do weird stuff, y'all. Okay, so let's get into the trial. Now, there was over 900 people summoned to be on the jury, and they had a hard time because so many people knew this family. I mean, this family has been in this town and in these industries for over 100 years. So they ended up getting it down to like 80 people that they could pick from 900 100. The judge even at one point specifically asked if anyone had heard anything about this case, and everyone stood up saying yes. There was no one who hadn't already heard about this case in this situation. And then the next day, the jury was seated, and it was made up of 8 women and 4 men. I want to know who they are, and I do hope that they come out after this and give their opinions, but let's keep going. There is a lot of people that do seem to believe that Alec Murdaugh, being in this industry as a lawyer, and his dad was a lawyer, and his grandpa was a lawyer, great-grandpa was alive, great-great-great-great-great-grandpa was a lawyer, everybody was lawyers or prosecutors or in the legal industry. People wonder if even the prosecution kinda is in on this in a way, because I mean, they've all been buddies for so long. But then again, however, when you watch the prosecution, they seem really mad at Alec, but you know, there's still always that thought like, are you really his friend? Is this all a plan? Nevertheless, into the opening statements, the prosecution presented evidence linking Alec to the murders of his wife Maggie and his son Paul. They claimed that Alec made several inconsistent statements throughout the questioning, and that they really pushed that there was a lot of family weapons and ammo that were on the property but then later missing, and that could have been the ones that were used for the incident against Alec's wife and son. The prosecutors say that there's a video that proves that Alec was at the kennels minutes before Maggie and Paul's lives were ended. And they also say that Paul had been messaging a girl about going to the movies and very active on his phone until he wasn't, which is how they were able to determine around the time of death, or at least what their opinion is. The prosecution goes on to detail exactly how they believe Alec planned out and executed this crime against his family.
His son, Paul Murdaugh, was standing in a small feed room in some kennels they had on the property. About 8:50 p.m., and the defendant over there, Alec Murdaugh, took a 12-shade shotgun and shot him in the shoulder, in the chest and the shoulder with buckshot. And the evidence is going to show it was a 1,000,000-to-1 shot. He could have survived that, but after that, another shot went up under his head and did catastrophic damage to his brain and his head. The evidence is going to show that Paul collapsed right outside that feed room. And just moments later, he picked up a .300 Blackout, which is a type of ammunition, but an AR-style rifle. And the evidence is going to show that the family had multiple weapons throughout the property. Picked up that .300 Blackout rifle and opened fire on his wife, Maggie, just feet away near some sheds that used to be a hangar. Pow, pow. 2 shots, abdomen in the leg, and took her down. And after that, there were additional shots, including 2 shots to the head that again did catastrophic damage and killed her instantly. The evidence is going to show that neither Paul nor Maggie had any defensive wounds. Neither one of them had any defensive wounds, as if they didn't see a threat coming from their attacker. And the evidence is also going to show that both Maggie and Paul were shot at extremely close range. The evidence is going to show it's called stippling. It's almost like a tattoo, that when you get shot very close to a weapon, it leaves marks that the forensic pathologist can see. They were shot at close range and they did not have defensive wounds.
Then the defense goes up there to give their opening statements, and they basically just drilled the point home that everything that the prosecution is saying is just theories. It's not facts. They're just coming up with this in order to prosecute him. He is innocent, of course, because they're defending him. They also said that Alec was a loving father who could not possibly ever do anything to hurt his wife or his child. They talked about how close he was with his son, Paul, and there are plenty of videos where you see Alec with his son Paul and how much Paul seemed to love and respect and depend and trust his father. And the defense goes on to say that they are honored to be defending him and that basically this didn't happen. There was no way that he would do this.
Now stand up. This is Alec Murdaugh. And Alec was the loving father of Paul and the loving husband of Maggie. You're not going to hear a single witness say that their relationship, Maggie and Alex's relationship, were anything other than loving.
The defense goes on to talk about how Maggie's phone was found on the side of the road, and Alec actually gave investigators the code in order to get into his wife's phone. And like, why would a man that had done this crime against his wife, why would he want them to get into her phone? I mean, obviously he's been a lawyer. He knows all these tactics. I mean, why would he want them in it? And also talked about, Paul being the apple of his eye. Basically, Paul was his favorite son, is the rumors. And why would he do this? They talk about a Snapchat video. Now, there was a Snapchat video that was taken by Paul of his father at 7:30 p.m. on the night of the crime. And it shows them like laughing and talking about a tree.
Better than it was, ain't it?
And the defense is obviously coming with, this was technically taken around an hour before the crime happened. How could this father, who is just laughing and being with his son like this, just turn around within an hour and do this horrendous crime? And mind you guys, not only was Alex's wife, Maggie, and son, Paul, killed, the way that it happened with the weapon that was used literally exploded them. And I mean, there was matter, human matter, and bodily fluids all over the place. It's even said that his son Paul's his head was blown off. So how could he go from an hour riding around out there at the hunting camp, playing, laughing, being with his son and his wife, and then within an hour, exploding them like that, and then turning around, going and visiting his mother, because that's what Alec's story is. He left the hunting camp to go and visit his mom, and then come back, call 911, and put on this act. And if he did, he's another scary one we need to talk about, but let's keep going. Now, during week 1, we hear the 911 phone call that was made, and we listened to that in the first video. And then we also heard testimony from first responders. We found out that SLED, which is the State Law Enforcement Department, received the case because the sheriff was afraid that there would be a conflict of interest since they were all so close with Alec. Sergeant Green's body cam footage is played in court, and we couldn't see it, but we could hear it. And at one point, Alec is asking over and over if they were sure Paul and Maggie were indeed dead.
Somebody going to check them?
Yes, sir. They've already checked them.
They did check them?
Yes, sir.
It's official that they're dead?
Yes, sir. That's what it looks like.
When you observed these victims, was it obvious that they had injuries incompatible with life?
Yes, any reasonable person that came upon those bodies would have come to a conclusion that they were deceased.
And a major at the sheriff's office testified that Alec's emotion seemed to change when investigators started really looking at the crime scene. He said that Alec's breathing slowed and he started to look more closely, almost out the corner of his eye. They also said that weather was a huge factor, that there was actually a storm coming in, so they only had about 45 minutes to secure the crime scene. Now, if Alec set all this up, man, he really tried to be smart, okay? If he did, because if he was calculating the weather and the timing and all of this jazz, I don't know. I mean, it's a lot of coinky-dinks going on. However, even with the weather like that, they tried to put up tents to maintain Maggie's crime scene since SLED wouldn't be there for another 2 hours. And because of this, not a ton of crime scene photos were taken. But then finally, a 911 unredacted phone call was played, one that we actually hadn't heard before. And on the call, Alex says Paul was threatened multiple times since the boat incident, so maybe that's who committed the murders. Someone wanting retribution. The 911 operator tells Alec not to touch the bodies, but Alex said he already had. And at the end of the call, Alex says he has to call his family, so they hang up. Then Alex's first police interview is played in court. And this is what gets me, you guys. Now, I need to be full disclosure. I am a sucker for emotions. Like if somebody seems like they're hurting, it's very disarming, right? Like you don't want to accuse somebody who is in obvious pain. And when I saw this interview of Alec in the car describing what he saw, telling the police, my heart ached and it seemed genuine. Watch this.
Just start at the top, take your time.
Like when I came back here, I mean, I pulled up and I could see him, and, you know, I knew something was bad. I ran out. I knew it was really bad. My boy over there, I could see it was.
Sorry.
And I could see his brain on his. And I ran over to Maggie, and actually, I think I tried to turn Paul over first. You know, I tried to turn him over, and I don't know, I figured it out. His cell phone popped out of his pocket. I started to try to do something with it, thinking maybe, but then I put it back down really quickly. Then I went to my wife, and I mean, I could see.
Did you touch Maggie at all?
I did. I touched them both.
Okay.
I tried to take, I tried to do it as limited as possible, but I tried to take their pulse on both of them.
Now, what do you guys think about that? That part right there is one of the things that's got me teetering. And I'm teetering, y'all, but I'm gonna tell you guys at the end of this video so far what I think, so stay with me. But I wanna know what you guys think about that. Do you believe that Alec had literally just shot and killed his wife and his son like that in cold blood, okay? To the explosion of, you know, and then call 911 and then sat in the car and could put on those emotions like that? If he could, terrifying. Now, there are a lot of people that believe that he hired somebody to do it and the emotions were real because of what he saw. And then there are also people that believe that he had nothing to do with it. So I want to know what you guys think about that video right there. Now, week 1 ends with a crime scene map being shown. And so let's move on to week 2. Now, when we get into week 2, this is when the timeline really becomes unclear. It's important to remember that the prosecution should be laying out a very clear timeline of what happened so there's no reasonable doubt. However, the defense only has to poke holes in that. They don't have to lay out everything exact. They just have to poke holes and cause enough doubt. Then moving on to Alec's second interview with the police that was on June 10th. He lets police do a download of his phone. He also goes on to reiterate that when he saw Paul's body, he attempted to turn him over and that he tried really hard not to mess things up at the crime scene. This is when the prosecution claims that Alec confessed the murders. They play this tape where the prosecution says that Alex said, "It's just so bad, I did them so bad." However, the defense says, no, that's not what he said. What he said was, "It's just so bad, they did them so bad."
Or not easy. I know it's hard. And sitting here talking today is tough.
It's just so bad. They did it so bad.
Stop. Did you hear now, they or I?
I will still testify that my hearing, I hear I.
Okay. Your Honor, we'd like to play it again at 1/3 speed to slow it down. It's just the same. Thank you. Play at 1/3 speed.
And sitting here talking today is tough.
It's just so bad.
you hear they then?
No, sir, I did not.
Okay.
The witness that is testifying at the time is an officer that was in the vehicle during that alleged conversation and says that he believes that Alex said, "I did them so bad." So was that a slip up on Alex's part? Did he say, "I did them so bad"? Man, I don't know. If he did, it's kind of hard. Like, you can go back and forth. And the officer testifies that he remembered him saying that from his memory, not from listening to the recording. Like, he literally remembered him saying, "I did them so bad." Of course, then the defense goes on to say, well, if you thought he confessed, why didn't you just go ahead and arrest him? And they said that they didn't feel like that was enough evidence to arrest him, which I don't think it would have been, but that was a good way to poke a little bit of a hole in it from the defense's side. Then they go on the next morning to talk about ammunition. They said that they found ammunition out at the property. What they're saying is that ammunition was very similar or the same to what was found at the crime scene. That really could go back and forth because this was a family to be known to have a lot of weapons because they literally had a hunting lodge. So that wasn't a selling point for me. However, they did bring it up, so I thought I would note it. Then a Verizon custodian comes there to testify about Alex's phone records. And this is pretty interesting, actually. They were able to trace Alex's steps because of his phone. So they were able to basically track when he was walking and when he had stopped, which that's something I haven't seen before in court. The prosecution didn't really lay out a clear timeline about this, and they only showed the jury a spreadsheet of records. They were looking at Alex's steps recorded by his phone on the night of the crime. And if you look at this right here, what they're saying is that there was no movement for almost an hour. And now prosecution is saying that Alec did this to his wife and son at 8:50. So if you guys look, he had 74 steps ending at 8 p.m., but he did not start showing movement in his steps until 9 p.m. Testimony would also later show that when they were looking at Alex's actual phone, that on June 7th, it showed that he only made 2 to 3 phone calls. However, when they pulled his records from Verizon, it showed that he made 73 phone calls. So who was he talking to? 73 phone calls that he deleted them from his phone. Was he talking to somebody about maybe coming there and doing that? Why would the phone calls be deleted? Then they would go on to call a young man named Rogan, who was a friend of Paul, up as a witness. Now, his dog was actually with Paul at their family kennel there and the same exact place where they ended up losing their lives. And he testified that that night he asked Paul to send him a video of his dog to see how he was doing. Now, in the video, he claims that he heard Alec in the background. Alec's story is that he was visiting his mother and he wasn't there at the kennel. And when he testified, it was a pretty emotional testimony because he really loved his friend Paul. He also went on to testify that he believed that Alec's voice for sure was in the background and that he was there with them.
Get back. Get back. Quit, Cash. Come. Quit. That's okay. Come here. It's not that bad. Come here, Cash. Come here. Post it. Cash.
Hey, he's got a bird in his mouth.
Bubba.
Hey, Bubba.
It's a guinea.
This is a chicken.
Come here, Bubba.
Come here, Cash.
Come here, Bubba.
Cash. Quit.
The prosecution also called a witness that was actually the CFO of Alex's law firm. This is when she testified about finding out that Alec was stealing money and funneling money through the company into other bank accounts, which again does not make him look good. No matter what, this guy is not a good guy, okay? He's allegedly, in my opinion. And this is where I'm going to give you guys my opinion, okay? As of now, watching this, I still go back and forth with whether I think Alec actually did it himself or if he hired somebody to do this to his wife and son. When I see the video of him crying, I think there's no way this man could have done this. How could he be hanging out with his wife and his son on just a regular day. His son, like that was his, like this is not a rival parent and son situation. They were very close. How could he do this? But then you see all this money laundering, and was he so obsessed with money that he was afraid that he was going to get in trouble? Or is it true that people were threatening Paul because of the situation that happened in the boating accident, and there were a lot of people that didn't like them because, you know, the Murdaughs really did run everything and they felt like that they could run everything. Did somebody come there to end Paul and ended up finding his wife there, Maggie, as well? And that's what happened. I am so back and forth, you guys, still. I'm starting to lean in, and it really just makes me sick to say this. I'm starting to lean in with, I think that he may have paid somebody or had somebody do this. But then when you see the videos of him with his kids, why would he do that? That is so sad and scary and crazy. And the fact if he could sit in that car and cry like that. But then again, I don't know. So we've got one more week of trial, and I've already been watching some of it, which is we're in this week right now. It's supposed to be the last week while I'm filming this for you guys. And you guys better come back for the next video, because the next video's already had my favorite witness. And we'll talk about that around the beginning of next week. So make sure you guys are here. What do y'all think? No matter what, in my opinion, Alec Murdaugh took advantage of the system. He played dirty. He did illegal things. And he's not necessarily a good guy, by no means. But did he do this to his wife and son? Okay. There's another question is, because his wife and son were both shot with two different weapons, that is what's going to cause a lot of reasonable doubt. Now, could Alec have walked into his hunting camp with two different weapons and his family not even flinch? Probably. I mean, that's what they did there. He could have truly walked in with two different weapons and then boom, shot one. And then before the other one could get too far, boom, shot the other one. But as of right now, even with the back and forths of everything and so many people that have strong opinions one way or another, I do not think the prosecution has made their case. There is still enough floating around for reasonable doubt as of now. And really the prosecution is really being sloppy, which I think is why a lot of people think that they could be in on it. I don't know. But then I have a really good friend of mine that's from one of the Carolinas who says that, you know, this legal team, they're not used to covering cases like this. So they may fumble it. I don't know, you guys. What do y'all think? I think it's interesting that everybody on the jury had already heard about the case. So they've got an opinion one way or another. And maybe one of their family members was put away by one of the Murdaughs. Maybe they were helped by them. Who knows? This is going to be a movie, though, one day. Watch. This is wild. Y'all let me know what you guys think down below. Other than that, I will see y'all next week. Have a great weekend. You guys don't forget to go outside, take a walk, drink your water, take care of yourself. Call a family member, tell them that you love them. And other than that, again, have a great weekend, and I will see y'all next week. Love you guys. Bye.